The first UFC of the year on Paramount, UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett just ended. Hopefully you weren't on the Paddy the Baddy side, because you know what, he got a beating, he got dominated. Seemed like a lot of people ended up losing big because a lot of people were saying take out the loans, bet on Paddy, Gaethje's washed, his grappling is so bad. But it looked like Paddy couldn't get any wrestling going, couldn't get his ground game going, on the feet, he's got no striking, chin up in there, got dropped multiple times. O'Malley snuck another close decision win. Thought that he ended up losing that. Namajunas, in my opinion, ended up getting robbed. Silva jumping on a skateboard on Allen, falling off of him. Earlier in the card, there was some great fights, a lot of finishes, a lot of knockouts. All I'd say UFC 324 was a pretty good card. Went 157th place on Tapology against like 10,000 people. The main event, Gaethje versus Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's chin, it really did hold up. It looks like Scousers can't get knocked out, but he did get dominated. I saw that fight going 4-1 to Gaethje. It was a 49-46, 49-46, 48-47 clear win for Gaethje. It really showed that Paddy really has no striking. He has just wild striking, leaves his chin up in the air, and he ended up paying for it and losing this fight. She's so-called bad wrestling, so-called bad grappling when he's gotten submitted both times when he went against grapplers. Really didn't show. The vision that he had of knocking out Justin Gaethje, really, he was really trying for it because he was standing on the feet the whole fight, just got pieced up, got dropped multiple times. One thing I will say though is Paddy Pimblett, he was out for the count, he was getting battered, he was getting hit. And you know what? His toughness was still there. Maybe it's because he invited so many people to watch the fight, $150,000 worth. So his life was on the line. He definitely gave it his all. And you know what? His toughness was more than I thought, but realistically his skill is not there in the top level. I think that he gets knocked out by the bigger guys, by like a Max Holloway. He gets finished by a Charles Oliveira, gets finished by Ilya. He's shit talking Dustin Poirier, but Dustin Poirier knocks his ass out too. I gotta give props for Paddy Pimblett for sticking in there, being tough, lasting till the end of the fight. He does have great grappling, but he couldn't utilize it at all because he couldn't get the fight to the ground. The next fight, it looks like it's gonna be Ilya versus Gaethje now, since Gaethje has the interim belt. Gaethje is pretty much a dead man in the water in that fight because Ilya, he's just got to keep knocking on your door until he finds that knockout shot. And I feel like Gaethje's only chance is just like a lucky in the pocket. Needing to trade with Ilya, he's got to be a huge favorite. Gaethje's got to get counted out probably too much for what it is going to be because he is a good striker. He definitely has power. And it's not like Ilya is untouchable in that aspect because he definitely does get hit. He's gotten dropped before. He's gotten cracked before. But I'd say that Gaethje, he really is just looking for that lucky shot in that fight. But I'd say Ilya versus Gaethje is a much more competitive fight than Ilya versus Paddy because the way that Paddy leaves his chin out, Ilya would have knocked him out in the very first exchange. That's for damn sure. Next up in the co-main event, we had O'Malley versus Song. Honestly, in my opinion, I thought Song took rounds 1 and 2. He utilized the wrestling pretty well. In my opinion, O'Malley, he just didn't do enough. He didn't have enough output in the first and second. He got taken down, didn't outstrike Song by too much. Song was sticking in there. He was having some good success with some leg kicks, some takedowns. Didn't hold him down for awfully too long. Didn't get too much damage off. But O'Malley just wasn't doing enough. He didn't have enough output. He wasn't really styling like how he usually does. But one thing for sure, it was a clear round 3 for Sean. He was starting to piece him up a lot. Started to put it on him. That Song already had a decision win. It looks like O'Malley's wrestling issue is a little bit more maybe, especially if Song is taking you down a couple times. But realistically, this was a pretty close fight. Another close fight gifted to O'Malley. I feel like this one was maybe not a robbery, but like it might be teetering on that end. Not more of a robbery than against Jan, but I feel like Song, he probably deserved to win. Maybe some favoritism towards O'Malley maybe edged that to the judges, but who knows. Overall close fight. Next up we had Acosta versus Lewis. Honestly, typical Lewis fashion. He went for a couple shots, went for some power shots, but honestly now that he's getting older, it's just getting way more predictable. Obviously the power is there. He did even maybe land a couple good shots on Acosta, but realistically he ended up not landing anything in the first round. Acosta was just bouncing around, using his jab, not really committing to anything, trying to tire out Lewis, and he kind of said that in his post-fight interview. Prediction came 100% true on this one. I had Acosta by KO in the second round just because I thought he would try to gas him out a little bit, but the way it ended was complete comedy because during a lot of the fights, a lot of the fighters were slipping, and Lewis, his 280-pound ass, slipped, and then he fell down, and he just straight up gave up. He started, once he slipped, he just gave up. Acosta got on top of him, started ground and pounding his ass. And you know what? Lewis took another shit in his pants, and that's probably the reason why he's going to say he lost his fight. But Acosta's knocking a lot of the heavyweights out, and you know what? He's really knocking and trying to get his chance at the belt, calling out Curtis Blades. And with the win against Curtis Blades, it honestly could get him closer to the title picture. He's so active, I honestly think that he can fit in 2 to 3 fights and just make a stamp on his claim to the title. I don't know. I don't think he gets the title, but never know in heavyweight. Next up, we got Rose Namajunas versus Natalia Silva. Honestly, this was the decision berg of the decision bergs, and this was honestly a nothing berg as well. Natalia Silva, she just kept circling around the cage like she usually does. In her fights, she's usually able to utilize her speed and kicks really well, but Rose, with her great distance control, she was able to avoid a lot of the kicks, a lot of the damage, so there was just a lot of nothing going on, a lot of shots not landing. And you know what, Silva, she really didn't put it on until the 3rd round, similar to O'Malley. But I thought that Rose won the 1st and 2nd, like I thought that Song won the 1st and 2nd. I think that this one actually was a robbery because there was a lot of nothing going on, but Rose was pushing the pace, she was pushing the action, she even got some takedowns in. And so I don't really see how Silva wins that, but I understand that this fight was close. I'd say that Namajunas, she got kind of screwed over. Close fight, decision berg. The decision at minus 400 was just the lock of locks, that's for sure. Next up, we got John Silva versus Arnold Allen. And as you can see, it looks like John Silva is flying like an eagle. But honestly, I'd say that Allen looked pretty good. It was a pretty comfortable win for John Silva. One of those fighters that can kind of ease his way into the fight and build as it goes on. He starts getting a little bit more comfortable, and once he's comfortable, he's really flowing. And you know what, in the 3rd round you could see that he started to piece him up a lot more. In the 2nd, he was pretty competitive, but I thought he edged it. And in the 1st, that was definitely the closest of the rounds. I gave it to Allen, but you definitely could have maybe swayed it to Silva, and that's what the 30-27 was. It was a 30-27, 29-28, 29-28 win for Silva. Arnold Allen, he performed a lot better than I thought. His speed was there, his accuracy was there, he landed some good punches. His toughness really showed for sure. Silva look a little less fierce, a little less dangerous. But next for Silva, I think the next fight for Silva would be against Murphy, possibly against Yair Rodriguez. He's really been sidelined for the title shot. He's definitely not getting it with Lopez getting it. And Evloev is also in the picture. So I feel like Silva versus Murphy would be a really good stand-up fight. It would be a really tough one. I'd favor Silva in that for sure. I mean, I think that Silva can become the champ. Next up, we got Nurmagomedov versus Figueiredo. This was a domination from Umar. He really was in no danger, and there really isn't too much to talk about. It didn't look that entertaining, but he just controlled him, beat him on the feet, made Figueiredo back up the whole fight, and Figueiredo really had no chance in this fight. The real question is Umar going to go against Peter Yan in the next fight? I feel like that is the fight to make, simply because I feel like the UFC is telling Merab to just sit out and take a little bit of a break since he fought so much last year. I also saw something from Yan saying that the Merab fight is confirmed, or it is in talks. So maybe not Umar versus Yan, but one thing that I was thinking of is Umar versus Yan. The winner of that fight fights Merab, because Merab is definitely the most deserving. The best thing about that, if Umar and Yan fight, is that Merab can fight either one of them, and he has a win over Umar already, and he's 1-1 with Yan. So you don't clog up the division too much and avoid a 3rd, 4th, 5th fight with Merab. Next up, we got Gautier versus Pulyaev. Honestly, this really just showed Puliev's toughness. One thing about Gautier, I feel like he just can't cut off the cage. He relies too much on his power, but this really just showed that he is more human. The way that he looks like he's just a powerhouse that just gonna knock you out. And you know what? Gautier could have finished him in the 1st minute. He dropped him, didn't follow up on any ground and pound, and then when he dropped him again, he didn't follow up any ground and pound. I wonder if he is that much of a fish out of water on the ground, because he really just avoided any ground game. He avoided any ground and pound just in case for any reversals. I don't know. That's the real question. On the feet, he really did look like he is just reliant on that landing that power shot, not really setting anything up. But I think he will definitely be able to stop a lot of people. And I think that this really just showed on Puliev's toughness rather than Gautier lacking power. I mean, the fact that he wasn't able to set up any shots and relied too much on power is what really costed him not getting the knockout. But at the end of the day, he won unanimous decision, dropped him multiple times. Comfortable win for him. This is definitely a good learning curve. Try to cut off the cage a little bit better, set up some more shots, mix it up a little bit more. Next up, we got Krylov versus Bukauskas. Bukauskas, honestly, he lost in a stand-up fight. Krylov did take him down one time, controlled him, and I honestly thought that's how Krylov would win, by mixing up more takedowns, but he really just mixed it up more, kept it light on the feet, outstruck him on the feet. And the icing on the cake was when he knocked him out. But you know what? What was I telling you guys? That Krylov, when he fought Dominic Reyes, he was on a 2-year layoff, and then he got knocked out. Dominic Reyes is a really good striker, which Bukauskas is definitely not the level of striker that Dominic Reyes is. Got knocked out in that fight, and then 2 months later, after getting stiffed, he took another fight and then gets knocked out by Guskov. He definitely wasn't in no shape to be fighting. He wasn't recovered enough. 6-month break. Then he fought Bukauskas and ended up having a comfortable win, and he ended up getting the knockout finish in the 3rd round at the end of the round. So pretty good win for Krylov. He definitely got one back. Nice comeback for him. He was on a 2-fight skid, getting knocked out in the 1st round on both. Avoided that here. Looks like his chin definitely held up a little bit more, but you know what? I'd say that he definitely is past his prime. Next up, we have Perez versus Johnson. The big meaty hooks just took the win. Perez, what is so annoying about this fight is that I've been picking Perez against Asu Amabayev. He was winning those first 2 rounds, and in the 3rd round, he gets submitted against Taitsuru Taira. In the 1st round, he looked really good. In the 2nd round, he was looking really good. Gets his back taken, and then he tears his ACL. I'm picking him against all these big favorites because I see that he is really underrated. His losses are really good, and I'd say that in a lot of his fights, he is winning. But in this matchup, he finally got a win. He finally cracked Johnson, and you know what? Johnson is a tough loss for Johnson, but it really showed that he was just dog tough. He was hanging in there until the bitter end. And you know what? It wasn't an early stoppage, but honestly, Johnson was going forward too fast, and he ended up stumbling it, so it looked really bad. But he was really that hurt the whole time. He was just hanging in there, and Perez just wasn't able to find that final blow. But he definitely was on ice skates for like 1-2 minutes trying to survive, but it was a great win for Perez. Cracked him, hurt him, and just kept the pressure on and did enough to finally stop him and have the ref step in. Next up, we got the new Chael Sonnen, Josh Hokit versus Freeman. Honestly, Hokit's relentlessness is pretty good. He's got good wrestling. He took down a guy who is pretty strong, who has a wrestling background. One thing I am wondering about is how good his cardio is, because for that 1st round, for 5 minutes, he honestly was pushing the pace. He had a high pace, and especially for heavyweight, I don't think that many heavyweights can survive this. So funny is the way that it actually ended up getting stopped. Hokit flipped off Freeman after he had just been putting on an onslaught for like 5 minutes straight, and then Mark Smith stops it when he goes to squat down when there's 2 seconds left. Steps in thinking that he was just completely done since the time was still going, but I honestly think that it was a little bit of a bullshit stoppage, but it looks like the UFC has had its first flip-off KO. I'd say McParkin or Walter Walker would be a great matchup for him to test him, to see how good he is, if he can utilize his takedowns in that matchup, because those guys are bigger, they're more experienced, they have some UFC experience, especially with Walter Walker just leg locking everybody. Is jiu-jitsu good enough to not get submitted? Josh Hokit, he's got good skills, he's got good pressure, he's got good cardio, it seems like, good wrestling, mixes it in, got some great ground and pound. So McParkin, Walter Walker, I'd like to see it. And last up, we got Miller versus Fugitt. What did Fugitt do to the UFC? He's been getting fed Michael Morales, Mike Malott, Dulatov, and now Miller. And obviously Miller is definitely a step below all 3 of those guys, but he's got great boxing. He's got really good fundamental boxing that's clean. He's got a lot of volume. He landed like 59 significant strikes in the 1st round. Threw a lot more strikes, had a lot of output. The question is, how good is his wrestling defense? And that's how far he'll pretty much make it in the division, because welterweight division is just so stacked. He's got to have great wrestling in that division to do anything, because there's some killers in there. But his boxing, his striking looked really good. He was piecing up Fugitt. He did what he had to. A lot of people did predict it. Debuting fight, gets the performance bonus, and he got bumped up to 100K. Great for him. Just to recap, UFC 324, we got 9 out of 11 on the card. Some great underdogs with Gaethje and Krylov. Should have had that Namajunas one. Went 157th place on Tapology against like 10,000 people that voted. So pretty good in my eyes. Had some good calls in there. If you liked the video, give it a like. Subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.